Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to a StarCraft 2 cast. This is going to be a 1v1 professional matchup between the players NightEnd and Roxkiss BratOK. And it's going to be a Protoss versus Terran on Delta Quadrant. Now, this map usually provides pretty entertaining matches because of this ledge harass here. Professional players make great use of this. It's similar to the ledge harass on Lost Temple, and what's a little bit more dynamic about this map instead of Lost Temple is that there's a very easy natural expansion here to guard. However, there are destructible rocks in the way. So what people sometimes do is they will go for an expansion out here and then try to guard it in some kind of in a strategic way. So they might put a couple of photon cannons here, or if they're playing a Zerg player, they might build some chokes. So it's always interesting to see what players decide to do, whether they go for these rocks or go out here. Usually I see people go out here and then they secure this expansion for later. Also, these players are right next to each other, so we are probably going to be seeing some early pushes here, and this ledge is going to be especially dangerous for the Protoss player to defend because what I was mentioning here, you can take a couple of dropships and a couple of siege tanks, and it becomes very difficult to defend. And this air distance is really, really short. So Roxkiss is getting his barracks out here. We don't see any refinery coming in just yet, so I don't really think that's anything too crazy. And he's not blocking off his front line either. So let's see, the probe is about to come in, so I'm sure both these players realize right now that they are cross-spawned from each other. At least the Protoss player is. Looks like Roxkiss is thinking the Protoss player is in the north side, but the Protoss does have a little bit of advantage because of that, instantly saturating that gas. So what we might see is a one gate to a fast robotics build, which is something that I see White Rod do quite well against Terran, and it's very nice because with that quick robotics facility, you can get an observer out, and you can automatically see what the Terran player is doing. Speaking from my own experience playing, I actually really like getting that observer out as fast as possible because lots of Terran actually like to go Banshees. So if you're able to scout the Banshees up quick enough, you not only have that observer to know what they're going for tech-wise, but you also have that Banshee to deal with the cloak in case they do decide to get that. So it's going to be interesting to see what NightEnd decides to do. Whether he's going to try to go for a 4-gate push or more of a tech-heavy build, which I think personally is better against Terran. So we'll soon see what he is going to choose. And a couple of Marines coming out, so BratOK is going for an aggressive first expansion. So I think he's going to go for this spot right here. If he's building an expansion out that early, there's no way he's going to be able to kill these rocks with just a couple of Marines. So he's probably going to go and take his outside base. One Stalker coming in for the Protoss player, still has not chosen a tech strategy yet, but since he does have these two assimilators fully saturated, we are probably going to see Colossus somewhere along the route. So a gateway actually coming in right now. So with this double gas, typically you will see a Colossus play. And if you're going to heavy 4-gate, you'll probably let up earlier on the second gas. So I think we are going to see a Colossus play from the Protoss player, and this makes it incredibly difficult for any ground units. Oh, move away, Stalker! For either sending a probe in here to scout or a Stalker in here to scout to see exactly what the Terran player is doing, and a little bit of a lag spike there. Not sure what's going on with my StarCraft. Sorry, guys. StarCraft's just been doing that occasionally on BattleNet, so I don't know what to do about that, but he is getting his Marauders in. He's getting a lot of Marines. I actually really like this play by BratOK because he went for that fast expansion, but he also is going for a very aggressive infantry build right out the bat. But what makes this strategy kind of weak is that if the Protoss player does decide to go for that fast Colossus, which I think he is going to do, he does have that 3-gate robotics facility being built right now. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Terran player to defend against it. It's Marines are never good against Colossus. They just get completely obliterated. And another bunker actually coming in for Roxkiss. He must be worried about a push. I think at this point he really shouldn't be. I think he's got enough Marines to deal with it. But since he actually is going to be going for this debris right here, so he's going to be taking it out with his Marines and getting some energy on the second orbital command. So right when this is ready, his mule's going to be able to start saturating this expansion right here. Protoss player getting ready for maybe a little push. If Only he knew that these Marines were attacking this side right now. This would be the perfect time for NightEnd to go and harass that position. But the Terran player has been warned that the Protoss player is here, so he's setting up for an attack. So it would be unwise for the Protoss player to go in to attack right now, since that Terran player has the information given already. And NightEnd actually choosing to go for his outside expansion. And let's see what is being built here. So combat shield is on the way for the Terran player. He's still pretty much just sticking to Marines, and he is actually getting a starport, and he's not going to be going any factory units. So might he be going medevacs? Might he be going banshee play? I think at this point he's best off going medevac with some marauders. I think he should get another tech lab up. I really don't think the Marines are the best thing to do at this point in the game. He really should start moving up his tech a little bit. And we see that the War Prism is going for the Protoss player, so like I said, I absolutely love getting that robotics facility against Terran players, because another reason that I forgot to mention was this War Prism here. You can use this War Prism to harass this ledge very, very effectively. If the Terran player doesn't have any tanks, like we see right here, he does not have any tanks, then it becomes very difficult to deal with. However, he does have a starport, so a medevac is coming out, so he's going to be able to do some harassment of his own. However, the Protoss player has decided to take this natural instead of his, he took this expansion instead of his natural expansion out here. Doing a good job hiding this War Prism, being extremely sneaky, so both players doing exactly what I thought they would do in the beginning. They are both going for an aerial harass. Since this air distance is so short, that's exactly what's happening right now. And I think the Terran player has pretty good reign on this base right now. The Protoss player is trying to beat knocking on the front door, but there are a bunch of Marines now dropping off on this base. There is not much that NightEnd can do about this. Warping in a couple of zealots against those Marines, it's really going to be tough for him to deal with that. And the Terran player has absolutely no problem dealing with the rest of that Protoss force, and I think NightEnd made completely the wrong decision here in terms of what he should be attacking, and honestly, he just got it was kind of an unlucky move, because he wanted to distract the Terran player in the front while he uses Warp Prism to go and harass here, but it looks like the Terran player beat him to the punch a little bit. So taking a look at the units lost right now, it's pretty much an even game. The Protoss player is actually a little bit ahead, meaning that he's just lost fewer resources and one medevac coming in right now. But right now, NightEnd really does have the composition to deal with this, especially with that Colossus coming out, especially with that external thermal lance coming out. There is no stim for the Terran player either, so Broxkis has got to get out of here, and great use of force fields by the Protoss player, just mopping up this Terran force right here. Perfect timing, perfect force fields. Definitely got a bunch of free kills right there, so not bad at all. And BratOK using these Marines again, for some reason choosing to use stim. I'm not really sure what that's all about, but I don't think that was the wisest move. So two Colossus on the way with that extended thermal lance. In my opinion, Roxkis has got to be doing something to deal with those Colossus. Vikings work very great against Colossus because they outrange. They have an incredible range on Colossus, so you can actually, if you can micro them very well, you can keep hitting them with a couple of cheap shots here and there, and the Colossus will be whittled away. And with a bunch of Marauders to kind of be a meat shield for the Colossus attack, I think that's really the composition he needs. He really needs Marauders, Vikings, and Medevacs at this point, and Marines just when he doesn't have when he has excess minerals and has used up all his gas for the units I just mentioned. So Protoss player coming in right now, a pretty good force right here, but the Terran player does have a good position. He is bottlenecking the Protoss player right here, so one worry is that the Protoss player does not have enough meat to support his Colossus. So I think this would be a pretty even exchange if that happened, and it looks like that Roxkis does have his Viking on the way. He is doing exactly what he needs to, getting that reactor after that starport, getting a couple of more Vikings left, and using that ledge very well, being able to get some harassment here. My only worry right now is that those Vikings are going to get superior positioning on those Colossus, and there's not going to be enough Stalkers to deal with it. And Terran player is moving out very well. Those Vikings are in great position right now, and he is trying to trap the Terran player, But one of those Colossus might be getting sniped up by those Vikings, and the Stalkers are moving in right now. They're going to be taking the Vikings. The Protoss player is in a great position right now, but he is a little bit blocked by his own fields, and those Colossus are stomping over those force fields, and the Terran player is forced to retreat right now, losing a couple of Vikings in the process, while all Colossus are left unharmed right now. So pretty good exchange. Taking a look at the resources lost, we see that the Terran player is just taking a beating right now. Doesn't even have a very saturated expansion. Meanwhile, the Protoss player is just rocking. He's got full expansion on here, even getting +1 weapons. And that weapons upgrade on Colossus is absolutely phenomenal. Since Colossus do splash damage, if you can upgrade their weapons, they get the most benefit out of any Protoss crown unit for the +1 weapon. So the more the Protoss player focuses on that, the harder the Terran player is really going to have to deal with those Colossus, because that means the more the Colossus are on the ground shooting at his Marauders with that +1 attack without any armor upgrades, it's just not going to matter how many Vikings Roxkus has, because he's going to be able to obliterate his ground force anyway. So taking a look at what is being produced right now, more Vikings for the Terran player and more Marauders. So he does have the correct composition. My only worry right now for Roxkus is that he doesn't have enough expansions. NightEnd even taking the high yield right here. It looks like Roxkus is going to be going for a drop right here, but not even spotting out the fact that he doesn't have a Nexus. I think that's kind of a wasted maneuver. He really should just be going out here trying to get a couple of probes, and he really has free reign back here. There's a lot of dead space in StarCraft 2 for aerial assault, so he should be trying to do that. Basically, all he's going to get out of this attack is a 1 pylon kill, and he should be going back into his medevacs because the full Protoss force is here. 4 Colossus, a bunch of Stalkers, 15 Stalkers, 5 Colossus actually, and 2 Sentries and a Zealot. That's just a brutal composition for any Terran player to deal with, and really all he has to deal with those 5 Colossus is 5 Vikings. So ideally you want to have 2 to 3 Vikings per Colossus, but that just shows you how many Colossus the Protoss player has been able to keep in this game, since he hasn't lost any. And Roxkus doing a great job, dual prong attack, keeping the Protoss player on his toes in the front, and doing a great job rallying up those probes into a corner, maybe even sniping the Nexus or even taking out a couple of pylons here. In any case, he might lose 1 base here. I think the Terran player should go straight for the Nexus, and so while the Protoss player is distracted, Roxkus might be able to get this Nexus down, and those Vikings are in superior positioning right now. The Stalkers are barely able to get in range and taking a couple of them down, but I think 1 Colossus almost down, very weak units, and I think that Roxkus BratOK did a fantastic job there, took that Nexus down, and also rallied up these probes here. There's not much mining left on that base, so Roxkus is definitely going to be down on the economy, as we see the Terran player is now soaring ahead. However, that is not going to hurt him that much because NightEnd does have this high yield, so really all it's going to take is just a transfer over from this base to that high yield, and he is still going to be ahead in the game right now. So I think he is in pretty excellent position. He's still kept all of his Colossus alive, so Roxkus wasn't quite able to use his Vikings as effectively as I had been hoping for him to do, but a lot of Marauders, so Roxkus does have a good composition, but really I would like to see some more Vikings. He is producing them as fast as he can. 1 command center coming down for Roxkus. Like I said, I really think if you take a look at the income right now, actually it looks like the Terran player is ahead. Once this Nexus finishes, Roxkus is going to be in a fantastic position because both of these main bases are going to be mined out for these players, but the Protoss player does have the high yield, and he does have this expansion out here. Also, he still has his natural, so that is a very base for him to defend. Looking at the army size, again, there are 6 Colossus, so that army size is not dwindling at all. 6 Vikings, a good amount of Stalkers with Blink to deal with the Vikings, so I think the Protoss does have superior composition on this map right now. One thing I don't like is that he is just sitting around on his base, which leaves him very vulnerable to attacks like this, and a pretty nice use of the Hellions here. If the Protoss didn't have any static defense, it could have done a lot of damage to this line here. Roxkus again setting up for another attack. His APM this game must be pretty high. It is significantly higher than the Protoss players and pretty high on average, almost at 190 right now. And looks like the Protoss player was ready for this and actually taking out those medevacs. Huge loss for Roxkus. Just taking a look it is pretty much a 2-to-1 ratio on units lost. So it is going to be really tough for this Terran player to deal with those Colossus. And taking a look at the army size right here, this might be the battle of the game right here. We do need to see some force fields or something happening. I think the Protoss player is waiting to rally all of his forces and take on that Terran force head on. I think both players right now are fully committed with their armies. They are not doing any dual prong attacks at this point, and Roxkiss might be able to snipe out this Nexus, but at this point, if he does go for the Nexus, he is going to be completely committed, so he is going to have to fight this Protoss army regardless. I think he's a little wary of that fact right now, so he is trying to back up. That is a lot of Stalkers and a lot of Colossus. Great use of force fields. Is actually splitting up the Protoss army here, doing a good job trying to mess up the Protoss player, splitting his force right there, so that was a good job from Roxkiss. The only thing I am worried about is this army size. He is about 50 food ahead, so that is just huge, and I don't think Roxkiss is going to have enough to deal with this. That Stalker army blinking right on top of the Protoss force, and I pretty much think that is going to be GG for today. A couple of more Terran units coming in, but that's going to be it. Roxkiss having a good composition, but really what hurt him was that he wasn't able to expand enough. The fact that they were cross-spawned, the Protoss player really took advantage of that, because you're very easily able to defend this high yield here. If they were cross-spawned in this position, then this high yield will be in contention. So this is the high yield in contention in this game, but that opens up this high yield here, the high yield over there, and the other high yield over here as well. So I think the Terran player should have done a better job using this side of the map. The Protoss player definitely did exactly what he needed to do. I think he went for the easier expansion. He didn't force himself to get basic units in the beginning and try to take this down like the Terran player did. He pretty much just went for Marines. I think he got that expansion a little bit too early on here, because you saw it was just kind of sitting there, and you're investing 400 minerals very early, and that is going to exponentially hurt you, or not hurt, but affect you as the game progresses. So if you don't make immediate use of that expansion, then I think there's no point of getting an expansion that early. The Protoss player really just had superior composition. He had enough Stalkers to deal with the Vikings. He did a good job keeping his Colossus alive and made excellent use of the little sentries that he had. He definitely did not put any of that energy to waste. So thank you guys so much for watching. Rate, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the match. And my name is Maze. Come check out my channel if you want to see some more StarCraft 2 replay. So thank you guys so much, and I will see y'all next time.